So I will start it. Hello everyone, welcome to the Roundtable scientific discussion of the science behind forest management. So today, where we will discuss how forests should be managed through the lenses of forest certification, forest maritime, and soil science. The aim for this roundtable are two. The first one is discuss the key scientific principles and research findings that form the basis of modern forest management strategies. The second one, highlighting the importance of science-based approaches in ensuring the sustainability of forest ecosystem. The third one is to share practical examples and case studies demonstrating the application of scientific knowledge in forest management. And the fourth one is provide an overview of various forestry expert perspective on how forests should be managed. And the last one is facilitate dialogue between expert practitioners and academia. So feel free to ask in the discussion session by typing in the chat box or raising your hand. We encourage a minute delivery question per person. Also, before we delve into our discussion, Uh, I give the floor to Wenning, the IFSA LC Unhas President, and Sakila, the head of OC of Volume Batch 4, to give a speech. So, time is yours.
Hi all, thank you for coming, and it's very happy to have everyone's in here. And we understand that we as an IFSA envision ourselves to understand and open academic discussion more about forest. And this is because this is a discussion, and yeah, we do not get like an exact answer about okay, what is the science behind forest management, but at least we hope that everyone like bring something to evaluate yourself and okay, this is how we should manage the forest. And because we ourselves as a youth really like grow up, and like even like in our academic we are start talking about climate change and others. So yes, and here because we have very vibrant speakers, hopefully we can learn more. And yes, welcome to this session, and hopefully we can get a very good discussion after all. Thank you. I will pass the microphone to Sakila.
Thank you, Kak. Good evening and welcome to our Sales Yunhas event volume project. I'm Sakila as the Vice of Organizer Committee, and it's a great pleasure to have you all here today, especially for our speaker. Thank you so much for your time. This event would not have been possible without the hard work and dedication of volunteers from Group 1. So good job. Our event will be discussion about the science behind forest management. I hope that this discussion will provide you with valuable insight and leave you with a greater appreciation for the importance of sustainable forest management in ensuring the long-term health and well-being of our planet. I would like to thank all for coming, and I hope you can get a new knowledge that can be benefit for all of you. That's all from me. And once again, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this roundtable. Thank you.
Winnie? Is it me or there's no sound at all? I can't hear anything.
Okay, I think like there's no sounds because I also waiting. So yeah, okay. Thank you for the speeches. Thanks also for me. So in here we will just move to the main agenda, that is the presentation. And okay, for, to introduce our first speaker, I will give the microphone to Kak Agung to introduce. So, Kak Agung, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ning. You guys can hear my sound, right?
Yes, it's all good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining our roundtable tonight. For this session, I would like to introduce the first speakers, the amazing speakers actually. She is Arida Fauzia, is a lecturer at Hasanuddin University, Indonesia. She is in forest conservation, and she is also a doctoral student at ITB, uh, who is conducting research on the development of the sustainable mud, mud, mudscrape Sila SP, aqua silviculture model in Indonesian mangroves. Prior to her current position, Arida Fauzia gained valuable research experience through an internship at the Leibniz Center for Tropical Marine Research in Germany. She is also an experienced research with expertise in marine conservation and management. She's strong commitment to excellent in teaching and research, and bring a wealth of experience to any organization. For Karida Fauzia, time is yours. Thank you.
Hi, Agung. Thank you for a rather operated introduction. I'm not that great, but yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. I can see that there are two other speakers, Kak Ibu Leli and Pak Ali. Hello, nice to meet you. And also lots of students from IPSA as well. Hello. Nice to meet you again. It's so good to see Indonesian faces on the screen. So I was rather surprised because I was checking the rundown, and then in the rundown I was the second speaker, but anyway, it's okay. IPSA, thank you for inviting me to share my experience and my perspective for forest management in sustainable perspective, and then to give you guys a disclaimer, I'm not an expert. It's just happened that I have a project related to sustainable forest management. So yeah, bear with me for the next 25 minutes, rambling about the project that we are working on at the moment. So I will start with sharing my screen. How do I do that? I hope I can do it now. I think one of you have to make me as the co-host first so that I can be able to share my screen.
Okay, 1 minute. I love the way you put KSDHE in front of your name.
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
Rita, you're a co-host now.
Okay, cool. So, share screen. Where's the share button? I have no idea where it is. Okay.
The color is green.
Okay, there it is. There it is. Okay, this grandma is, finding her way to share her screen. Okay, cool. So, yes. So let's start. I'm just going to turn off my video because the bandwidth would be more optimal. Okay, so everyone could hear my voice?
Yes, you're.
Yes, that's good. Okay, cool. So, hello everyone. Again, my name is Arda Fauzia. I am working for Forest Conservation Study Program in Forestry Faculty of Hasanuddin University, and I'll also a PhD student in Indonesia and also in VIA University of Brussels, Belgium. And then maybe that is one of the reasons why IFSA reached out to me, because the project that I am working at the moment has a relationship to sustainable forest management. So before that, so this is the letter that IFSA sent to me. This is quite compact because they would like me to share my perspective on how silviculture is in sustainable forest management, and then the aim of that silviculture is to restore forests and then benefit people's livelihood. So that alone is already heavy. That's an already heavy topic. And then also, IFSA has 6 aims. That's a lot for 25 minutes. And then I don't have that much expertise to share, but then I think in the next 25 minutes, I would be able to highlight some of the points from those aims. So I would love to start with how forests could benefit people, especially for the people's livelihood. Wait, I think I should time myself. Let me just time. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Should be all right, because I tend to talk a lot, so I have to kind of like restrict myself. Okay, good. So I would like to start with how forest is benefiting for people's livelihood, and then I will move on a little bit to how science could be used to ensure the sustainable of the forest ecosystem. And then after that, I would like to introduce our project that we are working at the moment as an example, not an ideal example, to apply the science-based management. And then in the end, I would like to wrap up with my personal perspective based on my experience and knowledge. Okay, so I remember I was presenting one of our projects result in our recent international conference in forestry faculty, and then I showed this picture to the audience, and then the moderator said that the project, the object of the research project has this kind of like a trigger for food. So I'm sure everyone familiar with this dish. This is kepiting asam manis, or whatever you call it, kepiting barado, whatever. So this is mud crabs, genus Scylla, and then the habitat of this fisheries commodity is in mangrove, in tropical mangrove ecosystems. And then a little trivia for this species or for this genus is that Indonesia has 4 species of this genus: Scylla serrata, Scylla olivaceae, Scylla paramosae, and Scylla tranguaberica. This species is the 3rd most important fisheries commodity in Indonesia, based on the ministry's statement. After Penaeus monodon and Lithopenaeus phenomena, of course, everyone knows, but the shrimp. And then the second one is the tuna. So, we all know, not everyone is a seafood fan, but everyone in Indonesia knows that mud crab is one of the top-notch cuisine. Where do they come from? I'm sure everyone knows where do they come from. As I have mentioned before, the mud crab's natural habitat is a mangrove ecosystem. And then the source for that species or for that commodity is based on capture-based or wild fisheries, and then also aquaculture. And the highest production province in Indonesia is North Sumatra province, and then they could in 2018 they could produce this amount of kilograms of the crabs, and then but that amount is also has been increased to this amount in 2020. These has been indicating the exploitation status, which is 0.63, where the fishing mortality is higher than the natural mortality. I would like to point out here that these countries that we see on the screen now, those are major countries producing mud crabs for the world, and then Indonesia is one of them. We could see that in 2017, the production scheme has changed from wild fisheries to aquaculture. Even though in Indonesia, the main production has been from wild fisheries. But this is a little bit, okay. So wait, I think I have to change this. Okay, it should be all right like this. Okay, so we know that there was a shift from wild fisheries to aquaculture compared to 2012. So before observing this figure, let's start with this paragraph first. So the reason behind the shift from capture-based to aquaculture-based is the mangrove degradation due to anthropogenic activities. So if we see here, the amount of the fish and the mud crabs is inside of that community has been captured from the wild. But then since 2010 or 2012, especially for mud crabs, the scheme has shifted from capture-based to aquaculture-based. Why? Because of the mangrove degradation due to the anthropogenic activities. And as everyone knows that anthropogenic development along coastal areas has been increasing through the years. And then that affect the habitat of the mud crabs. So at the same time, the local fishers realized that, oh, I have a declining quantity of landing or number of individual of mud crabs for the wild, and then they started to shift from capture-based to aquaculture-based. But then at the same time, the aquaculture activities for mud crabs to grow out the mud crabs in Indonesia has been using mangrove ecosystem as well. So that's why it's rather a plot twist, because to support the market demand, the aquaculture shift has been exacerbating the remaining mangrove forests, because the local fishers know that, oh, okay, we don't have any mud crabs, we don't have any enough mud crabs anymore in the wild, so let's open the mangrove land and then construct a conventional pond. But then at the same time, they are in competition with other anthropogenic activities. So what we have now is that increasing demand of mud crabs, but declining area of mangrove ecosystem. Yeah. And then I would like to emphasize that the aquaculture scheme of mud crabs in Indonesia is still depending on the supply of juveniles from the wild. So even though the local fishers and us as the market realize that the quantity of mud crabs landing is decreasing, the aquaculture scheme is still in need to extract huge amount of juveniles from the wild. So not only that we are in competition with anthropogenic activities along the coastal areas, but also the local fishers have to think in which area of mangrove that we still have to explore to get the juvenile, so that we can culture the mud crabs in our conventional ponds. So here is the life cycle of the crabs, the mud crabs, the genus Scylla. So they need mangrove areas in certain salinity, because each species has certain salinity to grow. In mangrove areas, they grow, and then once they spawn, they have to go to offshore, and then they have to go back again to the inshore once they started to grow from a juvenile to pre-adult and to adult. So I would like to emphasize that not only the fishers have to compete with the non-fisheries related development in the mangrove areas, but also again, this livelihood is probably their only option to survive. This reminds me of one of section of my favorite paper, The Tragedy of the Commons by Gareth Hardin from 1968, that we really would like to put our interests first and then keep on denial that everybody's interest is also important. So the highlight of this first point about people's livelihood is that the local fishers communities in Indonesia is in competition with the anthropogenic activities anthropogenic development along coastal areas, but also the local fishers itself is in competition with how do they survive every day, because culturing the crabs or collecting crabs from the wild is probably their only option. So now we are moving on to, okay, we know that we have declining amount of mud crabs, but then we also realize the local fishers shift the scheme from capture-based to aquaculture-based, but then at the same time, we have to kind of restrict the activities, the aquaculture activities, to destroy more mangroves. So we are moving on to the second point, which is the science-based approaches ensuring sustainable forest management. I personally see this phrase is really heavy because sustainable forest management, wow, sustainable itself is really complex. I know the community in IFSA and also students, majority of students in the forestry faculty of UNHAS already realize how complex sustainability is, because as we know that mainly there are three main pillars in sustainability. The first one is environment or ecosystem, and then economy and social. How do we start? Where do we need to start then to have this sustainable aquaculture? So it's good that the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, has produced or generated this this concept called ecosystem approach to aquaculture, or EAA. So it's like the principle generated by FAO as an example of nature-based solution to an increasing aquaculture product demand. In our context here is the mud crabs. And if we have a look at the principle, it has this, wait, let's just close this one. Okay, so if we have a look at these three intertwined and interconnecting pillars, the aquaculture itself is intertwined with two other pillars, which is social and economy. And then in the EAA principle, this aquaculture alone is actually 1/3 part of the whole sustainable aquaculture. But then obviously we can't do anything at once. So we have to start little by little, but then hopefully we could make an impact. So I would like to zoom in. We would like to zoom in because I'm not working alone here. So we would like to zoom into the aquaculture part. And then this aquaculture part has two components, which is the physical carrying capacity and the production carrying capacity. I would like to remind everyone that in sustainability concept, I think it's going with something or a main principle that we have to know how much to explore and when to stop. So something like that. So that's why we have some restrictions to make sure that the future generation has the source. So in FAO EEA, they have this concept called carrying capacity. in aquaculture dimension, they have two components: physical carrying capacity and production carrying capacity. And then we were zooming in it again to production carrying capacity. And in carrying capacity, there are two components, which are state indicator and pressure indicator. And then in this research project, we were zooming in into one of those indicators, which is pressure indicator. And then the one component that we are working on is the feed or a food. I know it's a little bit boring, but that's the journey. But we are really optimistic and hopeful about this. So we came up with an idea how to develop an environmentally friendly mud crab skilla grow-out system as an implementation of ecosystem approach to aquaculture. Simply, we would like to offer an alternative to local fishers to keep their livelihood as mud crabs fisher, but without degrading any more mangroves. So they still have their they still have their livelihood, but also we still have our mangrove forest. So So this is the science-based approach that we would like to apply. And then the main question is, where is the appropriate place to conduct mud crabs grow-out activities? As I have mentioned before, the alternative that we would like to offer is that how to make sure that the people has their livelihood still means that they still have to earn money by selling the crabs, means that those species of crabs have to be cultured in certain community of the mangrove ecosystem, because not every species of crabs could grow naturally in some certain mangrove community characteristic. We never know. We will not. We haven't found out about that yet. So again, this is a decreasing landing quantity of mud crab skilla because of mangrove ecosystem degradation. And then one of the reason is the human settlement development, and then also the ontogenic phase exploitation. So this is rather a scientific term for juveniles extraction. So the shifting to aquaculture has to make sure that the mangrove ecosystems are not that degraded because of the conventional pond, but also the fishers still gain some earnings. In Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general, there are two type of grow-out system or aquaculture. So in mud crabs aquaculture, there are several methods, but then the one that we are working on is a grow-out system. So like the main one, to grow the juvenile mangrove crabs to adult mud crabs or mangrove crabs. We call it grow-out system or GOS. So there are two type of grow-out system in Indonesia. The first one is pond, conventional pond or tambak. And then the second one is mangrove pans. The one that is currently on practice in Indonesia is pond, this conventional pond or tambak. Everyone knows what tambak. And then they usually switch the community from fish to shrimp and to crabs. The main issue with conventional pond is they have to excavate the mangrove floor, and then they have to convert the mangrove land, and then also the scale is small to large. The alternative that we would like to propose here is the mangrove pans. Why? Because in mangrove pans, the fishers or us, or we don't have to open a mangrove area. We don't have to convert the mangrove cover to a land without the cover. And then we know that the mud crabs' natural habitat are in the mangrove. So we basically put the crabs inside their own house and then, feed them until they are until they grow nicely. So this is really boring, but this is this case study. I know it's still not yet done, still like 1 or 2 years to go to finish. But then what we would like to see the channel or the approach that we are working on at the moment is to find out the trophic niche of each species of Scilla. So basically, we would like to know what kind of natural diet species that each Scilla species feed on naturally. Why do we have to know that? Because again, we would like to construct a mangrove fence, and then that mangrove fence have to be constructed in the appropriate habitat of those Scilla. So basically, it's like asking what you like to eat and then taking you to the restaurant that serves that food. Basically, like that. And then that's the first phase. And then the second phase, well, the second phase has actually been conducted together with some students from our lab. And the second one is the identification of mangrove community characteristic into grow-out systems. So we would like to see what kind of mangrove community that is actually present in conventional ponds and mangrove ponds. And then this research would be sealed or concluded in the assessment of grow-out systems, or to see which kind of grow-out systems that actually accommodate the trophic niche of each Scilla species. Okay, so this is our first finding. So we have several places to collect the sample. So we have Segara Anakan Lagoon in central Java as the largest remaining mangrove area in Java Island. The second one, we have Sungai Ujung in Maros, South Sulawesi, and also we have Tarakan in North Kalimantan. So I would like to give you a brief overview for our current finding in Segara Anakan Lagoon. In Segara Anakan Lagoon, the local government institution only recorded Scilla serrata as the only existing mud crab. So they only report one species, that's it. And then in research articles, they mainly mentioned about Scilla serrata and Scilla olivaceae, but sometimes Scilla tranqueberica, sorry. The thing that you guys have to know is that these four species look similar. And then we would like to recheck whether there are four species available there or not, and then whether the trophic niche could be different from one another. So moving forward to this boring methodology, blah, 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 and then this is the results. Apparently, we are not only having one or two species in Segara Anakan Lagoon. We apparently have four species. So we do have Scilla serrata, we have Scilla olivaceae, we have Scilla tranqueberica, and we have Scilla paramomusain. So this data is complementary. So this data is not cooperation, but it's one morphometrical data that is complemented by the genetic data by DNA barcoding. What does it mean? I have to skip this part because this might be boring for you guys. Okay, so I will skip to the conclusion part. So the four species of Scilla are present in Segara Anakan Lagoon, but then they are not distinctively different. Like the morphometric data didn't tell anything whether they could be differentiated by morphometrics. Obviously, local fishers claimed that they could differentiate those four species, but based on this research, the morphometrical data, we couldn't see the distinct difference. And then I have to skip to this part. Okay, so we do now that they have four species of Scilla existing in Segara Anakan Lagoon. So the implication is that the local fishers probably mix juveniles from different species in one cycle by local fishers. This is something that we still have to look for, because after this phase, we would like to see the natural prey being consumed by each species of Scilla in the natural setting. hopefully after that, we could see that there are certain mangrove characteristics available to be matched to construct the mangrove plants, and then we could stock the juveniles of a particular Scilla species. So that is the study case, and then this is the last part, which is the perspective on forest management. I know it's rather short, but we can talk a little bit more on discussion part. So again, for my own perspective, based on the experience that we are having together, working on this project, is that we were only here, and then this part is not yet done. So we still have so many homeworks to do, especially for us first year students, because we know that after we are we know after we have some results from this project, and then we have some knowledge about this, which is the feed that constructs the aquaculture dimension of this whole sustainable aquaculture. We still have to think about another dimension. We do have economy and we do have social. So long journey to go, but still optimistic and hopeful. Yes, I am 2 minutes late, so that's all from me. I'm sorry if I hope I made myself understood, but we can talk a little more on the discussion part. I will give the microphone to the host or Wenning.
Sure, it will be Kak Agung for this.
I mean Agung.
Yeah, wow, it's amazing presentation from Rita Fuzia. She's just told us before the first time is 3 species of the Scilla crab. It's Scilla serrata, Scilla tranquillarica, Scilla oliveste, and at last it's a 4, being 4, and she just told us we're the highest production in Indonesia, why the crab exploration, and for the global I think the global supply, and how we keep the livelihood, yeah, by the degradation happens by drowning, logging, and the human settlement development, and they do some mangrove plants. Yeah, it's amazing presentation, but I think many participants have many questions, but please hold because we just went to the next session for the second speakers tonight. He is Ali Bali, the research lead at the Mazen Nahal, Iran. He recently graduated from Sari Agricultural and Natural Research University, majoring in forest ecology, and his thesis is about the effect of plant communities and altitude variations on soil, carbon, and nitrogen stock. starting from 2018, and Ali worked on his university water, soil, and plant laboratory on many experiments and mainly focused on soil. He was also the organizing committee on the Fifth National Conference of Climate Change and Dendrochronology in Caspian ecosystem. And in IPSA, he currently serves as the IFPRO commissioner. And so Ali, time is yours.
Thank you so much, Roundtable. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Hey, great. I'm also struggling with bad internet connections here. So, hello everyone, and thank you for the introduction. If you allow me, I'm going to share my screen now. Also, my cameras, so I'm in the middle of the. Okay, so my presentation today is going to be about the science, resource management. This is the agenda. We're going to introduction with this role in the system, and then soil science and then some techniques, and also education, and then we talk about sustainable farming, and then we have option. Focus that is over. I believe like role of soil science for what is the foundation we always grow like, and pleasure to show you significant in the topics. But for reason for and that improve work. They're essential for our planet's ecological well freedom. Delve into the science management, it's crucial that the rapid transport that forest have been by various factors, including historical events such as World War II, the Revolution, and the Green Revolution. Private heavily, and that is the it always happens. Birds are the second of life on Earth, and they have faced immense pressure due to human expectations and activities. In this dynamic context, science has played a critical role in understanding and managing the ecosystem. So, what the role of science for system? One might say that soil is the providing the variation we these indicate ecosystem type. The key aspect of course, you will always see soil research. It's similar. Forest serve the model, providing moisture, regrowth. It influences the species selection, growth rate, and overall forest health. So understanding and managing the soil properties is the fundamental for successful tree planting, growth regeneration. Or in wood transportation. The type of the forest soil impact the loads and maintains of transportation networks within the forest. Soil properties affect road construction, determining the feasibility of timber extraction and the cost effectiveness of wood transportation. A well maintained soil foundation is vital for smooth, year round transport of harvested wood. First, economy. Healthy forest soil supports sustainable timber production, contributing to the forest economy. By promoting tree health and vitality, it ensures a continuous supply of high quality wood products, thereby bolstering the economy of it also plays a critical role in responsible practices. It determines where and how logging operations can take place without causing long-term soil degradation. So proper soil management during and after logging is crucial to preserve the soil long-term fertility and productivity. And finally, the forest management itself. Effective forest management strategies rely on a thorough understanding of forest soil, assessing soil quality and making informed decisions about land use, tree planting, and conservation efforts are essential for maintaining a sustainable and productive forest ecosystem. Soil analysis guides forest managers in making informed decisions to ensure the long-term health and productivity. So one of the most important ecological functions of soil that is always that is always in front of our eyes, but we might have not paid enough is the anchoring function of soil. Without soil, where could plants and trees develop their rooting system, and where could wildlife step up? Some get shelter and homes in there. Soil ability to provide this stable foundation is several factors. These are the most soil texture refers to the relative proportion of sand, silt, and clay particles in the soil. Sandy soil are loose and do not provide strong heat. Clay soil are compact and provide better support. Soils which have a vast mixture of sand, sea, clay are considered ideal for root structure. Many of you may not know the difference between soil structure and texture, but they are absolutely different. Soil texture is what we explain, but soil structure refers to the arrangement of soil minerals to aggregates, which can be granular, blocky, plate-like, or prismatic, among other forms. Soil structure influences how well the soil holds together and how easily water and air move through it. The amount of soil organic matter in the particles, the soil, such as decomposed plant materials or humus, can significantly affect anchor capability. Soils rich in organic matter tend to be more stable and have improved water retention. It is essential to develop. Soil compaction across for forward beneath is so light tolerant without any porosity and so compacted and literally nothing going on it. This is soil compaction that takes all productivity of the soil away. Soil compaction can significantly affect the anchoring capabilities of soil in a forest. It actually occurs when soil particles press together more tightly than in their natural state. Compression reduces the space between soil particles, making it harder for roots to penetrate and establish a secure anchor. So they actually, when the soil compaction happens, the roots cannot even penetrate into the soil, let alone establish a system. Soil plays a vital role in supplying trees with water and essential nutrients. This functionality is crucial for the growth, health, and overall well-being of trees in forest ecosystems. Soil serves as a reservoir for water. When it rains or when snow melts, water infiltrates the soil is stored in the soil's pore spaces. This stored water becomes available to trees during dry periods, reducing the risk of drought stress. Soil has the ability to draw water upward through capillary action. This upward movement of water allows tree roots to access moisture from deeper soil layers, even if the water source is located below the root. Tree roots absorb water from the soil through a process known as transpiration. The roots take up water from the soil, and this water is then transported through the tree's vascular system to support various physiological. Soil contains essential nutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and many others, which are vital for tree growth. These nutrients are derived from organic matter, mineral weathering, and decomposition of plants and animal material in the soil. Soil particles have a negative charge and can attract and hold positively charged ions, or known as cations, such as calcium, magnesium, and potassium. The CEC, uh, uh, cation, known as cation exchange capacity. CEC of soil determines its ability to retain and exchange these essential nutrients for tree roots to access. Trees form symbiotic relationships with mycorrhizal fungi, which extend the root's nutrient absorbing capacity. These fungi can help trees acquire nutrients, particularly phosphorus, in exchange for sugar produced by tree through photosynthesis. We will talk about this one in detail later. Soil hosts a diverse community of microorganisms that break down organic matter, releasing nutrients in forms that tree roots can absorb. This decomposition process enriches the soil with organic nutrients that are essential. Soil science and forest health is the foundation on which modern forest management stands. Principles of soil science and how they apply, we gain critical insight as far as health and sustainability. There are key principles of soil science, such as the soil composition, pH, nutrient content, texture, that have direct relation with soil quality influences, include and development. Healthy, well-nourished soil fosters robust tree growth, resulting in timber of higher quality and quantity. I still on? Did you still hear me or?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay. Okay. So forests are more resilient and adaptable to disturbances, and soil science helps create conditions for a variety of tree species to coexist, enhancing biodiversity. Healthy soils have healthy soils lead to more resilient forests in the face of pest, disease, or natural disasters. Well-nourished trees are better equipped to withstand and recover from disturbances. So in essence, soil science is the compass that guides sustainable forest management. By recognizing the intricate interplay between soil quality and forest health, we can better protect and preserve our vital populations to come. So, soil science techniques. Now we will dive into soil analysis, test, laboratory, field work, and basic technical approaches aspects of soil science. Talk about studying soil in a specific area, making a whole and collecting this stuff can be done using a simple shovel, or in case you want to take a sample from a deeper part of the soil, for instance, from 20 to 30 centimeters depth only, you could use a auger. Using an auger is not as easy as it might seem, and it requires a lot of physical power. Of course, collecting a soil sample has its specific rules, but we do not have time to talk about it now. Let's go to the next stage. Preparation of the soil samples is a process that contains several levels and actions, which prepare each sample for running chemical and physical tests inside the laboratory. Most of the times, this procedure is being done in a place outside the lab because it is basically being within dirt. In this picture, you can clearly see what sample preparation I've done with my lab coat. It's all dirty. This chart shows the general things need to be done before you take a soil sample to the laboratory. First, you label them according to the lab style, which is generally just a number. Because when you collect a sample from the field, you usually put many details, such as the name of the site, the plot, the district, the name of the collector, and etc. You cannot have them all in the lab, so you need to set a new set of labels and assign each label to a number from 1 to whatever you take. You need to take the rocks and litters, such as root particles, out of your sample, because you only have to need the soil, nothing else. At this stage, make sure you thoroughly look into the samples because there might be a little earthworm hiding there. Earthworms are a very important biological factor for our soil, and their presence can be a sign for a good soil. Make sure you save these little bodies because at the next level, we would dry out the sample. And since earthworms need moisture on their skin to breathe, spending hours in an oven is a hard way to die with them. Drying the soils is very important because the presence of moisture can really put errors in your chemical test. So you have to check and see if they are well dry. Next, you have to smash the soil particle and basically grind. Be able to pass them through a mesh, and then at the next level, you must relabel the sample if necessary. Before taking your sample to the lab, make sure you check to see if you have all the samples prepared. Check this of them, and then check their labels one by one, so you do not miss anything. While the samples are ready to be tested, in the lab, you could use different methods and devices to run your test and measure different elements of soil. Now determine all the factors we have talked about with great labor and attention, of course. Several projects of many students and have more than 6 years of experience working in soil, water, and plant laboratory. I must admit that this is a frustrating job. I do not love it. You have to do the same job over and over on different samples again and again without losing your enthusiasm and your focus. That's what makes it so hard. Anyways, some well-known and widely used methods are soil moisture by finding the weight change of the specific amount of soil after it dried out. Hydrometry for determination of soil texture. Plug method using an aggregate of soil and paraffin to determine the bulk density. And PC using the special devices. Carbon using one-free black method, and nitrogen using Ketel method. I would have loved to talk more about these and other methods, but that would be a subject for very popular technique of soil, which is also my favorite and can be really helpful when for digital and is a modern technology driven approach to soil mapping and characterization. It utilizes a combination of geographic information system, remote sensing, statistical techniques, and computer-based modeling to create detailed, accurate, and high-resolution soil maps and data. The primary goal of DSM is to provide a more efficient and cost-effective way to assess, understand, and manage soil. For instance, maps are prepared from my master's thesis clearly show the amount of carbon, EC, and moisture in different parts of the study. For this specific study, I used bridging for interpolation, which is a method of using exam, and it's widely used. For example, the moisture content map is showing that it is high in the central part of the site, and that place is actually where a great river passes. Obviously, the soil around it is high in moisture content. Case study, I have decided to present my thesis as a case study since it has almost fully examined soil of the study area. And its title is as it was said, is the effect of plant communities and altitude variation on soil carbon and nitrogen stock. Even though it is only mentioned carbon and nitrogen, I have also measured texture, bulk density, moisture, phosphorus, potassium, and some other characteristics. The reason of that lies within the nature of soil science. Just like many other sciences, different aspects and parts and components of forest soil science are heavily related to each other, and you definitely cannot consider them independent. Measuring them and considering them together can really help you. This is my study site, and to consider vision, I did into three different zones. First one, less than 400 meters. Second one, between 400 to 600 meters. Third one, above the 600 meters. For my sampling, I designed a random systematic network of 400 meter dimension, and the forest has 7 different plant communities as described on the left. Such site had an area of 2,612 hectares, and I took a total of 163 sample plots, in which each sample plot I chose 2 soil depths, 0 to 10 and 10 to 20 centimeters. I took 1 disturbed soil sample from each depth and 1 undisturbed soil sample from 0 to 10 centimeters. So what is a disturbed and undisturbed soil sample? The soil sample is the type that you collect, the type of soil sample that you collect without considering the volume of precipitation using a simple shovel. But an undisturbed soil sample is taken using a special instrument using which the volume of the taken sample is determined. Undisturbed soil samples are used to determine bulk density, below ground biomass, soil porosity, and fine root portion. Means I have 3 soil samples from each sample plot. That leaves me a total of 489 soil samples. I mentioned that collecting these samples took me 3 months, and doing lab analysis took me 1 year. That can give you an idea of how hard and time-consuming can forest soil studies be. That's why we could really use modeling approaches to without the soil data, without all these labors and time. And that's because we do not have time, and I've already talked about methods. We jump into the results. Since my data were a lot, I could run several statistical tests and result in different conclusions, but I will only present 2 most important parts. Here is the result of the soil analysis for depth of 0 to 10 centimeters. You may wonder, where is carbon here? You don't see it in the list. Now, the answer might surprise you even more. The results show that different plant communities had no effect on soil carbon stock, which is really unbelievable and new. But I've came to this conclusion that since the study area was vast, the number of uncontrollable factors were off the charts, which resulted in some huge errors. Think of that new idea that the rules of the statistical classic statistics does not apply on forest sciences. I mean, when did any forest researcher have seen a closed vertical distribution graph in a natural site? It is because of the complexity of the forest ecosystem, which is incomparable with other fields. Back to our discussion, one obvious result is that where the stands are, Community number 4, all chemical properties are at the lowest since the beech leaf litter takes a long time to decompose and it puts organic matter and nutrients into the soil. This species is famous of its ability to deplete soil and turn it acidic, which in here explains the low number of the chemical properties. This is a live example of how soil science can help management of forests. Another one is the maps we produce. In this geostatistical map, we can clearly see that the green part, which has low pH, is exactly the place where beaches stand on. So we basically know that part is depleted of nutrients and is not a good option for plantation. Uh, so since we don't have time to talk about all the maps, but you can see the different maps we produce for different soil characteristics for moisture, nitrogen, and potassium, and different other properties. And you can see that I've also put the layer of the plant communities. So we could discuss it in my presentation basis defense session. So what's clear here is that these maps can give you very good information for management purposes when you want to go to a forest and run some management approaches. Sustainable forest management. Let's flash back to what we have discussed at the beginning. Responsible forest management seeks to maintain ecological balance, preserves critical habitats, safeguards water quality, and minimizes soil erosion and disturbance to delicate systems. Forests are valuable economic assets. Science-based approaches, including soil science, aid in optimizing timber harvest and ensuring a sustained income for local communities and the timber industry. Forests are essential for human well-being, providing recreational opportunities, cultural significance, and clean air and water. Sustainable forest management guarantees these benefits for present and the future generations. Science-driven approach ensures that forest regenerates after harvesting, and that is in their nature actually, and really amazing. Healthy soil is enriched through responsible management, support tree growth, carbon sequestration, and overall ecosystem stability. By integrating science-based approaches, particularly through the lens of soil science, we strike balance between these three crucial pillars: ecological conservation, economic viability, and social well-being. This equilibrium guarantees the sustainability of our forests as they continue to evolve in the face of a evolution. So I don't have much time, so let's conclude it. Vital role of soil science. Soil science is the silent architect of our forest, providing essential nutrients, moisture, and physical support. The foundation upon which healthy forests stand, and it guides us toward a more sustainable and resilient ecosystem. Science-based approaches. Through science-based approaches such as digital soil mapping and responsible forest management, we enhance our understanding of forests, optimize resource use, and balance ecological, economic, and social objectives. We continue to witness the evolution of our world and our forests. The importance of forest science-based practices cannot be overstated. It is through this understanding that we can navigate the changing landscape of our second largest place of life on Earth and ensure for generations to come. Thank you so much for giving me your attention, and now I give the floor to the dear moderators. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. It's a great presentation from the soil forest ecosystem. Ali just tell us the role of soil in forest ecosystem. He just say the soil is vital role. Of course, we stand up there. and absolutely happy for uh, sustainable forest management. Amazing presentation. Okay, I think it's also many question for Ali, but please hold your question and let the third speakers. I'd like to introduce the last speaker this night. His name is Lely Puspita. Is forestry by training with specializing in sustainable forest management, silviculture, and invasive species. Prior to joining LT, she worked for Blue Forest Foundation, managing mangrove project in West Kalimantan. She is a forest uh, stewardship council lead auditor and has been involved in an array of forest management audit in the Asia Pacific region, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Laos, and Papua New Guinea. She has also served as a quality panel member for the High Conservation Value (HACCP) network in the reviewing HACCP assessment report for palm oil and forestry plantation in Indonesia and Malaysia. And Lely holds a BA in forestry from Gajah Mada University and MSc in forestry from Northern Arizona University. This is the introduction for Lely. Time is yours, please.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, hope everyone can hear my voice okay. Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you for the intro and thank you for the speakers. And I think Ali have explained a little bit about the sustainable forest management, so I can just go ahead to talk about FSC. And thanks, Ali, for the brief introductions about sustainable forest management. Well, let me share my screen. All right. Wait. Okay. So I'm guessing that everyone in this Zoom has a forestry background or currently studying forestry. So I hope my presentations you're pretty familiar with my presentations. So my material, it's not really talking about like a scientific research on forest management. So because my background is in forest management auditors in FSC scheme, I want to show like how the forest management is really connected with the scientific based evidence. And we use a lot of scientific research and also scientific methods to verify how the sustainable forest management is implemented, especially in the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council certifications. So, wait a second, why I can't? Oh, right. So first of all, what is FSC? I hope everyone is pretty familiar with FSC. So Forest Stewardship Council is one of the pioneer of sustainable forest certifications, and it has been, I think, it was developed in the 1994, and then now has been growing a lot, especially in Asia, and also it was pretty big in Europe, the US, Canada, And now because most of the timber and non-timber forest products are coming from a developing country, including Indonesia, the Forest Stewardship Council products coming from Indonesia is also growing a lot, and because a lot of big companies or a supplier or consumer, they want to ensure that all the products that they're using are coming from the sustainably managed forest. So yeah, we have a lot of demand for the FSC certified products. And yeah, so with the FSC, the missions is to promote the environmentally appropriate. The product is coming from the environmentally appropriate products, and then it's socially beneficial and economically viable management. And also, we're not only focusing on the environment or the ecology of the forest, but also we pay really good attention for social aspect, and also including indigenous people and even local community. So this is some of the advantages of the FSC certifications. One of them is the credibility, because FSC, the company that are certified by FSC needs to be audited by an independent, third-party independent bodies. And we all sign the confidentiality agreement, non-conflict of interest with the company. So all of the auditors were trying to assess the company objectively. And also FSC has a very good credibility around the world. And that's why most of the country like Europe and US and also Australia and some Japan or China, not really, but a lot of countries, they demand for FSC products. And also one of the advantage from the FSC certification is the environmental protections, because we pay a lot of attention for environmental values and protections. So there's no conversions allowed. So that's why, like, a lot of big companies in Indonesia that was converted after the 1994 is not eligible for FSC certifications. Well, now we're trying to discuss some, what do you call like remediation process for a company that are converted forests that are converted after 1994, but it's still in a process. And also we see a lot of advantage for the community because the company that are FSC certified needs to have a good relationship with the community, including, especially when there's indigenous people and also local community. So the company needs to engage with the local community and the indigenous people, protects their customary rights, and they need to be involved in the management of the forest. And also the access for the market. So the promotions, when we talk about the FSC, is often we say that FSC provides premium price. So the buyer would pay more money compared to timber or non-timber forest products that are not FSC certified. And maybe now not all big company offer like a big premium price, but it becomes like FSC becomes like a requirement to, so you can sell your products to this company, for example, then you need to be FSC certified to just make sure. But overall, like some example in for company exporting products to Australia, they're FSC certified. It has a higher value, like for money. So a lot of companies, also smallholders community, they really benefiting from the FSC certifications. And well, this is some example of FSC certified products. I believe you're familiar with some of the brands. It's not a promotions, but so just an example. So from timber and paper, non-timber forest products, and also bamboos, rattan. We have all kind of products that can be certified. So in FSC, we have 10 principles that we need to assess not every time, like every 5 years, we need to see all the principles, and then annually, every year, we need to audit 2 or 3 principles each. So, well, from the first principle about the compliance with law, it's all about the legality of the company and also their products. So it's all about national and international compliance with laws. And principle 2 talks about the workers' rights and also employment conditions. This really helps, especially in Indonesia, where a lot of well, not a lot, like some companies, they want to like pay the worker less, but have them work more. And with this FSC principle on worker rights and employment conditions, we ensure that the worker, they have equal payment for women and men, and also based on their job and also their qualifications and how their living condition is, and all kind of worker rights needs to be fulfilled in this principle too. And principle 3, we talk about the indigenous people rights. So if there are indigenous people in the area, then they needs to be acknowledged and also not only consulted, but they also needs to agree or approve the forest operations in their land. And we have a lot of set of assessment to ensure that the indigenous people rights is fulfilled in this principle. And then principle 4, we talked about the community relations. So it covers both the indigenous people and also local community. So when the area of the forest operation doesn't have indigenous people, usually they will still have some local community, and all the relationship between the community and the company needs to be audited under principle 4. And also principle 5, it talks about the benefit from the forest. I'll give some example of how the scientific methods is used in this principle 5 about the benefit from the forest. And then principle 6 about environmental values and impacts. This one also have a very close relationship with scientific evidence from research or assessment that needs to be scientifically proven. And principle 7 talks about the management planning. This one is the overall planning of the operations. We have some management and monitoring that needs to be scientifically, and it's connected to principle 8 about the monitoring and assessment, and then principle 9 about high conservation values. This includes identifications of flora, fauna, endangered species, RTE species, and so on, and how they manage, protect it, or monitor it. And then principle 10, we talked about the implementations of management activities. So ensuring that all the the management plans elaborated from principle 1 to 10 to 9 is implemented correctly. All right, so here's some of the example of the applications of scientific knowledge in FSC criteria and indicators. So I think if you're like looking for a job as a forester, if you still want to implement all of the knowledge you get from the school, from campus, you should be like, I don't know, like silviculturists or forest management auditors, because you will need to still understand all of the subject from campus, like from how to calculate the annual allowable cuts, how to do the soil monitoring or water monitoring. Everything you need to still understand to be able to assess the forest management operations. So I think it's pretty interesting if you want to, explore your expertise in the forest management. All right, so first one of the example of the criteria and indicators that we use a lot of scientific methods to verify whether the operation is conducting their management correctly is for the criteria 5.2. So we need to assess whether the organizations harvest the products, either timber or non-timber forest products or ecosystem services, below or at the level of the allowable cuts. So we ensure that the forest or the products is sustainable, and we use a lot of data from the growth and yield information. So the company needs to have permanent sample plots, and they have to see how their forest stand grows, and then how they calculate the allowable cuts, and make sure that in the next 10 or 20 or 30 year or like 100 years, you can still see your forest sustainable up, even though you're harvesting your forest. And then they have to update the inventory data regularly, and also they have to see the impact from their operations. For example, there's a potential of fire or outbreaks of insects or pests and disease. They have to also maintain their forest is not disturbed by that, and then ensure that they still can maintain the forest sustainably. And we also needs to see the area or the volume of the timber is doesn't really disturb the intact forest landscape. So when we see from the maps and also from the ground truthing that there's still intact forest landscape in the area, they have to protect it. So they can't just operate in whatever area they want. So they have to have a scientifically proven area from the mapping, and then also ground truthing, talking to the community, ensuring that those area is harvestable or not harvestable. And then the important part is how they calculate the allowable cuts. It's really important, especially in Indonesia. Like we have history of, 20, 30 years ago, we have a lot of issues with the forestry sector, where a lot of forestry company just cut whatever they want, and it's way above the allowable cuts. And we're questioning the sustainability of our forest management. And with this FSC, we have to make sure that it's at least based on the allowable cuts or below the allowable cuts. And then in Principle 6, when we talk about the environmental values, the company or the smallholders, farmers, for example, they have to identify or assess any environmental values in their forest area. And when we talk about the assessment of environmental values, we use a lot of scientific methods from flora, fauna identifications that you probably have done in conservation subjects on campus. You will still need to do that when you're managing your forest, and you have to use like the correct methods, like scientifically proven methods, and then you have to monitor them over and over, like over the years, and then compare the environmental values and make sure that the values is not decreasing or disturbed by your operations. And that's all about the Principle 6, which talks about the environmental values and how you identify, manage, and monitor them. It's still Principle 6, 6.4, which talks about the rare species, RTE species, rare, threatened, and endangered species. This one, we also needs to use best available informations and also scientifically proven methods to identify the RTE species. Usually the company or the forest managers, they need... Sweet, okay, so right, so Principle 6, we're still talking about all the ecological and environmental aspect of the forest management. And specifically on 6.4, we talks about the rare, threatened, and endangered species. So here we use a lot of scientific methods to identify and monitor the flora and fauna, especially the RTE species or endemic species. And the forest managers, they have to conduct at least annual monitoring or every 6-month monitoring, depends on their capacity and their complexity of the operations. And usually they use the, well, either they have the permanent sample plots for monitoring, or they also need to identify, monitors the flora and fauna in some of the protected areas, like riparian areas or mountain or other protected areas. And in some forest concessions, especially in Indonesia, we have natural forest concessions where they selectively logged the timber, and usually after logging, the fauna, they can still come back to the log cover area. So they also needs to monitor the not populations, like at least the presence of the fauna in their log cover area. And this is usually a lot of the staff that works in we call it sometimes environmental department or ecological department, is from either biology or forestry graduate. And we use a lot of research on this criteria in 6.4. And then 6.6, this one we talks about the how the natural ecosystem or species are still maintained in the operations. And this one we specifically use several considerations when operating in a forest management area. One of them is to use silvicultural methods that are suitable for the area. So I think in some countries, the forest managers they have the flexibility to design their silvicultural methods. Like, for example, they want to develop the area for wildlife conservation area, so they focus on the wildlife. And then if they want to use it for timber productions, they will focus on timber production, but also still maintain the ecological and environmental values. So each forest operation might have different silvicultural methods. However, in Indonesia, we have pretty limited silvicultural methods, kind of. Like the government, we have several silvicultural methods that can be used, like TPTI, the Tebang Pilih Tanam Indonesia, the selective logging, Indonesian selective logging silvicultural methods, or the strip planting silvicultural methods. But however, sometimes it's not really suitable from our perspective. Like, you cannot use the same thing in, for example, in Kalimantan and in Papua, that they may have different I don't know, like soil characteristic, or I don't know, like the environmental values is like completely different. But yeah, like we have pretty limited silvicultural methods, and most of our silvicultural methods are focusing on timber utilizations. And yeah, well, now some companies where they have a good silvicultural department, they try to like make some innovations, and then they prove it scientifically that, oh, this silvicultural methods is way more productive for us. And then they have scientifically proven data, and then they can like submit it to the authority, and then they can use it as a pilot study or pilot practice in their area. But generally in Indonesia, we have the silvicultural methods that are already designed in a general context. And then we also use the threshold or the guidelines on how the trees are harvested. For example, we use the diameter limit or species selections for timber harvesting, and also guidelines on how the recruitment of the woody debris and other vegetations are occurred in the natural stands. And yeah, we have some regulations on the opening size. This one we talks about when the forest manager cuts the trees and then fell the trees, it will create like an opening in forest canopy, and we also need to ensure that the opening from the timber harvesting is not that big or destroy a lot of residual stands, for example. So that's also can be scientifically proven with some monitoring from the company. For example, my thesis also talks about how the timber harvesting creates the gaps and allows some lights or come in, or how big is the comparing the skid trail opening and also the tree felling opening and some main road opening, and see how the vegetations are growing in those areas. SEAL 6.7, we talks about how to protect and restore the natural water course, water bodies, riparian areas, and the connectivity. So in FSC, we pay very big attention on mostly on the water water course and riparian areas and any water sources. So any contaminations needs to be monitored. So this one, we use a lot of scientific monitoring on water quality. So they need to take the water samples from the upstream and downstream to make sure that they're to show that their operations does not provide big negative impacts to the river or to the water, and they have to bring the water sample to the labs, and then that laboratory results is used to like as an evidence that we destroy the river, for example, or no, our operations have a very small impacts, for example. So that's how they needs to use the scientific methods on monitoring the water. And this one, we move on to principle 7. So in 7.3, we talks about the management plans that needs to be that needs to consider a verifiable targets. So when we talk about the verifiable targets, we want to be able to compare from the before and after, or over the years, how the ecosystem has changed, or how the species has changed. That's needs to be verifiable and then comparable. And this one is one of the example where the so we did the trainings for the forest management staff on how to identify the plants and then make herbarium, and how they will use it to teach the workers on how to identify the important species, for example, when they do some monitoring. And this one also includes some monitoring on soil. So they also needs to monitor soil compaction, for example, or erosions. So they have to have samples not only in one area, but if, for example, they have like 5 different soil types, then they need to compare the monitoring in those different types of soil. So everything needs to be done scientifically, and the result is used to show that how the forest operations are impacting the soil, and that's how we check if they really take a good care of the soil or the water and whatever environmental aspect in their forest management. Next, we talks about the principle 8. Here we talks about the monitoring and evaluations on environmental and also social activities. So all activity needs to be monitored, and for example, the regeneration activities, the ecology, what is it? This one, the picture shows some invasive species that grows in a disturbed area. So this one, for example, is a log landing area where a lot of suns can where the plants can get a lot of suns and a lot of invasive species can grow pretty fast, and it might disturb the regenerations of the tree species that they plant, for example. So they need to monitor this invasive species, for example. And in Indonesia, we don't really pay attention on invasive species because maybe it's not a priority. But right now, with the FSC, with a lot of FSC audits in Indonesia, most forest managers are aware about the invasive species, and I think the research on invasive species has been growing a lot, and I think that's really useful for the forest managers because conducting a research for every aspect in their area is a lot of work. So when there is a scientific research done outside of the area, not outside of their area, they also can use it for their forest management. So yeah, and we also talked about the what else? Like biological control agents, for example. So when there are a lot of invasive species, sometimes one of the control how to control the invasive species is to introduce a biological control agents, and they need to research whether the biological control agent can be controlled, or whether it can become another invasive species in the area, and everything needs to be scientifically proven. All right, I think this is like my last slide. In Principle 8, we still talks about the monitoring, and then this one, previously we talked about the environmental monitoring, and then this one we talks about the social aspect, social impacts for of the monitoring of social impacts. Sorry, and this one also needs to be done based on scientifically proven methods. For example, they have to consult, they have to do the focus group discussions, they need to do they need to give FPIC, free prior informed consent, from the community, and then the forest managers needs to acknowledge all the traditional knowledge, for example, or cultural sites and everything. So it needs usually there are a lot of social experts involved in this monitoring of social impacts. Oh, last one. This one about the monitoring of environmental conditions. So in FSC, they're not only for timber products or non-timber forest products, but also if you want to claim the ecosystem services, like for example, water, you want to claim that your water is managed sustainably, or you have a what else, like for example, a waterfall, and then you use it for a recreational area, and then you want to promote it as a FSC certified recreational area, you also can do that. And you also need to monitor all the environmental values, the ecosystem functions and everything, and all the what is it, like native species that are occurred in the area needs to be monitored and identified and monitored. So yeah, I think that's all. So that's basically, wait, what is it? Okay. That's basically what we do in FSC audits on how the sustainable forest management audit is done, and how we use a lot of scientific data to support or evidence as an evidence. All right, thank you. Maybe Agung or Running? Yeah.
Thank you. It will be good to Kaikal.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I'm here to change Mr. Agung position because he have another important things to do. So thank you very much to all the speakers for the amazing presentations, and it is more than wonderful to learn more of all about the knowledge. But by the end of the presentation, we will open the discussion that will last for 35 minutes. So we give a floor to everyone that wants to deliver for your questions, both by unmuting the microphone or through the chat box. So feel free everyone to asking questions to all our speakers. So yeah.
Maybe Akila, you want to speak it or just let me read it for Ali?
So we have questions by Miss Akila. So I will read it. Hello, I would like to ask to Mr. Ali Balu. As we know, even soil has its own evolution. So how is your perspective about managing soil that naturally has its pace? How the scientists face it? So Mr. Ali.
Yes, am I audible?
Perfectly.
Okay, so if I get the question right, you're actually asking that how can we manage the natural evolution phase of forest soil? How can we prevent it or guide it in our desired way? Is that what you're asking?
I think so, yeah, because like we understand the evolution of the soil, and yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a good question. In my point of view, I think that would be a very hard decision to make because, you know, they say in average, one fist of wait, let me. Okay, I don't know if I'm expressing it right, but of one feast of soil takes around 100 years to develop and to create. So if you want to change the soil of a given area, it's going to be, well, with the current knowledge we have, it is somehow impossible because it's going to be like a very hard and complex process. It's going to be really costly. It's going to be really time consuming. So I would say there is nothing much to do against the natural evolution of the soil. However, we must try our best to actually cover let's be friendly, cover the messes we have made on the forest soil. You know, I had a professor in my university. He always said that at the moment humans step into the forest, they start making changes. They start making giving the natural cycle some struggles. So it doesn't matter if you are inside the forest, helping it, managing it. You're still making struggles for the natural ecosystem. So to sum it up, I would say there's not much you can do to fight with the natural evolution of the soil, but what you can do is to try recovery options, like when you, for example, we have skid trails in the forest for forest logging, and where the skidders and other vehicles pass, they compact forest so bad that it will cause many like floods, or takes the fertility ability of the soil away. So to make it recover faster, we can plunder it, we can try to disturb the soil so it can recover itself faster. All we can do is to help it to recover faster, but that doesn't make like a huge change. It will still take so many years, maybe so many generations, to recover fully. I don't know if I could answer your question. Thank you.
So yes, we have another questions for yes, from Swash. I wanted to know, what is the human wildlife conflict status in your country, Indonesia, and how is it being managed? So this question is for what speaker?
I think it can be for both of our speakers, Kak Lely, and anyone can answer. But I think Kak Arida Kak Lely can help with this because you work closely with this.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a lot of human wildlife conflicts in Indonesia, especially in forest plantations or palm oil plantations, where the habitats of the wildlife is converted to plantations. And yeah, it's a tricky question because we're still trying to also answer that questions. But in some areas, like in Sumatra, there are some. It was one of the WWF projects where they train the elephant to be the like the elephant guard, something like that. So usually, technically, no, like naturally, the wildlife will try to avoid human, but sometimes when the wildlife is already what is it like there's like a illegal hunting or poaching where the wildlife feels traumatized by the human. Usually they will like attacks human when they saw human, or for example, their home range is like tiger. They have tiger and elephant. They have like certain what do you call the path that they always use every year, and when it's converted to palm oil, they will still use that path, and that's usually creates a human wildlife conflicts. And usually, if there is some wildlife that already experience human wildlife conflicts, the government will transfer the wildlife to like in situ like protection areas. But because usually when the wildlife is already experiencing human wildlife conflicts, it's really hard to to bring it back to nature. So yeah, that's usually what happened. But another case, like in Kalimantan, we still have some orangutan where they usually occurred in some forest concessions, and in Indonesia, where the natural forest concessions implementing selective logging, they need to identify the wildlife, and then they have to map the habitat, and then when they work in the area where it's orangutan habitats, they need to do a precautionary approach. For example, they implement some reduced impact logging, or they identify the nesting area and try not to get close to their nesting area when they harvest the timber. So things like that. But yeah, we still have a lot of human wildlife conflicts. I hope that's they can answer your questions. Resettlement, human resettlement practice. What do you mean human resettlement practice? Or maybe Arida have some experience with some wildlife conflicts. I don't know, in mangrove, maybe you have like alligators or something. That's a tricky part. How you...
well. We do have wildlife as well. No, I was sending a link to a research being done by our study program, but then it's not specifically related to the human and wildlife conflict, but it's like a tracing research for wildlife being traded in Makassar, South Sulawesi. Yeah, and the study is pretty new. It's 2021. So the species of that wildlife, mostly birds, and then they are all traded in Makassar. So yeah, it's just an indication of how human intervention to wildlife is really huge, and how the law enforcement has been quite low in, at least in Sulawesi Island. It's just, yeah, just to edit a little bit something on that. Thank you, Lely.
Yeah.
Mbak Lely.
Yeah. I want to follow up for the human resettlement practice. Not specifically for wildlife. So we have several human resettlement, but mostly it's because of the, for example, so in Indonesia, most of the forest area is state forest. So technically, it's like owned by the countries. So, for example, if there is the forest area is allocated for forest operations or mining operations, and there is like settlement, not indigenous settlement, but usually like local community, they went to the forest for shifting cultivations, and the government moved their settlement, their temporary settlement to other area. So the company, they can just operate in those area. We have some kind of practice, but it's not specifically for wildlife conflicts. Usually for wildlife conflict, the human wins. Like the humans stays in their habitat, in their area. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's wonderful questions by Kak Lely and Kak Arida. So our last questions is from Mutiara. So the question is, I would like to ask Miss Lely related to the monitoring process. How long is the monitoring for the whole principles, and is it done at the same time or step by step from the first principle? So, Kak Lely.
Yeah. So the monitoring, usually it depends on how the forest managers manage their schedule. So usually, not usually, like the forest managers, they need to have the long-term management plans and then annual management plans. And their annual management plans, they have like 1 year plans from January to December, and they have to like spread out the activities from January to December. And for example, when so from principle 1 to principle 10, some of the activity is connected or overlapping. So you don't need to have one monitoring just for this principle, and then another monitoring for another principle. For example, when you monitor the flora and fauna, you already address principle 6, principle 9, and principle 10, for example. So that's how they do it. So it depends on the context. It depends on the aspect you want to monitor. But the thing is, the monitoring needs to be it needs to have a frequency. So, for example, when you monitor the soil every year, this time of year, you if you monitor your soil in a rainy season, for example, and then the next year you need to do it like in a similar season or in a similar months. I don't know. Maybe Ali can have some feedback on that. But you need to have the monitoring done in a similar situation so you can compare them. So, for example, you did the last year you did the monitoring for like what monitoring, like erosions, for example, during the dry season, and then next year you compare it during the rainy season. So you might not be able to compare those. So that's need to be considered when the forest manager make a schedule for monitoring. And the monitoring needs to be done not frequent. Oh, what is it? Continuously until you're done with the operations, because the result of the monitoring will be used to develop the next year plans or the next 10 years plan. So the monitoring is like a mandatory practice, and it's continuous practice. So if you ask how long, I think it's as long as you have the operations going, you need to have a monitoring. Yeah, thank you.
So, thank you for the answer, Ms. Lily. And we still have one question from Mr. Dapa, but unfortunately, the time is limited by the moderator. So I'm sorry, Mr. Dapa. So such a good explanation by all the speakers. So I give the microphone to Mr. Shadan again.
Okay, thank you very much, Haikal, and thank you to everyone who has sent their question. But unfortunately, due to the time constraint, we cannot entertain more questions. So we would also want to say thank you to all the speakers and want to give certificates for appreciation and just to hold such a memory between us. So wait a second. Okay, thank you very much again for all the speakers. So before we say see you, let's capture this moment and smile. Okay, let's take a picture together. Wait a second.
Yes. Please turn on your camera, guys.
Please on. Well, okay, maybe the other host can help me to screenshot.
Okay, I can take the screenshot. So, okay, for the first slide, everyone, please smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, in the second slide, 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much, everyone. And okay, there is like one thing that I also want to share, because yes, it is from the regional representative of the Asia Pacific. So yes, So tomorrow we will have our wait. I think my screen is not presented yet. Okay, so tomorrow we will have like the first Asia Pacific Coffee Hour, and yeah, you can also, even though it's coffee hour, you can also like spill your tea in here. So it means it's happy hour for us. So don't forget to join everyone, and that's maybe the last announcement. And thank you so much for all the speakers for the time you really like give almost like 3 hours together with us. And we are very sorry for the clicking the end button.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kak Ali. Once again, thank you, Kak Arida. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everyone, for those who
Thank
are
you, Kak.